Now we're gonna make our spinach and cheese mini frittatas. So first what I'm gonna do is preheat the oven, because you wanna preheat the oven probably 30 minutes ahead of time to give the oven plenty of time to heat up. So I'm gonna come over here and we're going to set this to 375. There you go. It's gonna beep and do its little thing. If you hear beeping and clicking behind me, it's the oven coming to temperature and its thermostat turning on and off. So next what we need to do is we need to prepare our muffin tin, right? So we've got our muffin tin. This is a non-stick muffin tin. Remember what I said earlier, like you need a non-stick muffin tin. Or if you're using like a regular muffin tin that does not have a non-stick coating, you need to use cupcake cups, the little paper liners, because you will not get the eggs out of there no matter how much you butter it. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and buttered this, and you can see that there's butter on the inside of these. And to butter them, it's really simple. You just take a little piece of paper towel, put some butter on it. You want to really get in there and get every little corner of the tin, right? So you want to get the corner, you want to get the sides, and even up around the edges of the sides here. You want to do, I did 6 and then I did 2 more to make 8, because this recipe makes anywhere from 6 to 8 mini frittatas depending on the size of your muffin tin. So I buttered 8 just to be on the safe side. So next what we're going to do is cook our greens. If you're adding vegetables to your frittata or your quiche or whatever it is, you need to cook them ahead of time because the eggs will not get hot enough to cook them all the way through. So since we're just using greens, we're just going to nuke these for like 45 seconds. I'm going to cover them with plastic wrap and we're going to throw them in the microwave, and they're actually nuke really easily. If you're cooking with something harder like broccoli, you're going to want to actually microwave them for a little bit longer because they're hard vegetables, and any hard vegetables definitely need to be cooked ahead of time, because if you put them in your eggs and then you know eat your eggs afterwards, like the vegetables will not have cooked through and you'll end up with these like weird hard nubbin vegetables in there that are super unpalatable. So I'm going to grab some plastic wrap. And we're going to cover this because what we'd want to do is seal all the moisture in so they steam. Now there's a thing about plastic wrap in the microwave that was just pointed out to me. So there is microwave safe plastic wrap, and it'll literally say microwave safe on the box. Though as long as the plastic wrap is not touching the food, it's perfectly safe to microwave plastic wrap. So if you look here, like the spinach is in the bowl, it only comes out to about here, and there's a good like inch between the plastic wrap and the vegetables. So I'm gonna nuke these for 45 seconds and then I'll be back. So I've microwaved my greens here and they're really hot. And I wanna point out a safety concern here. So you can see like they're in here, and the plastic is actually like created like a vacuum. So it's like all the way down inside the bowl. But this bowl is full of hot steam. And if I were to open this, it would burn my hand, it would burn my face, it would burn whatever part of my body is really close to it. And so what I like to do is you can just like peel up the edge and like open it away from you. I don't even like to do that. I'm gonna take this knife and I'm actually very carefully just going to poke a hole. Ta-da! And now all that hot steam has escaped. It hasn't burned me. That's a big plus. So we're going to unwrap our greens and see how they look. Ta-da! They look great. So you want your greens to be limp, right? Like it doesn't look appealing, but this is what they need to be. They're essentially just cooked through. They've been steamed. And everybody's microwave's a little different. So your microwave might do this in 30 seconds, might take 60 seconds depending on how powerful it is. In my microwave, it was 45 seconds and it worked great. But what I did is I also did it for 30 seconds first, took a look at them, and then I did another 15 seconds. Now we're gonna make our filling, and this is super easy. So what we've got is a blender here, and this is a super high power blender, but you can do this in any blender at home. And in fact, a regular blender is probably easier just because it's not so powerful. With a really powerful blender like this, we run the risk of over whipping the eggs, which will make them like aerate like mad. So if you have a really powerful blender like this, you want to do it on a pretty low speed, like 1 or 2. So first what's going to go in are our 8 eggs. Yay, eggs. And then we've got our ricotta cheese, about 1 cup. Ta-da! Everybody in. Everybody into the pool. And then we've got, we want to add 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. I know how juicy those lemons are. And then we're going to add 5 leaves of sage, and we're just going to kind of tear them up a little bit just so they're easier to blend. And then the whole key, like you could just throw them in whole, but since we don't want to over blend this, any big pieces will cause us to have to blend it more. And so the smaller pieces that go in, the faster it'll blend without having to over aerate the eggs. So we've got our sage torn into little pieces. We've got our thyme, 5 sprigs of thyme. And remember, I don't know if you saw the herbs and spices lesson. This is how you get the leaves off of thyme. You grab the thinner end and you literally just pull like this. And all the leaves come off, which is super easy. We're going to do this with all 5 of our sprigs of thyme. And this is really easy too with this particular thyme because like everything's on like one branch. Like I've gotten thyme where it's got lots of little branches like off to the side. They can be a little tougher to peel because you don't really want the branches like inside the thing. So if you have like extra little branches off the side, you can just pull those off and peel them the same way. All right, this is all done. We're gonna add some pepper. I'm not a huge fan of black pepper, so I don't add very much. And then we're going to add 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. There's half a teaspoon and another 1/4 teaspoon. And now we're going to blend. This is going to get real noisy for a second. And I want you to see exactly how much I blend this. So I've got it on speed like 1.5, because this blender has a dial. And this is how quickly we're going to blend it. That's it. And like you'll see little bits of sage in there, like, but they're really small, so it's fine. And I'll actually add some color. Like no amount of blending in here is going to completely obliterate the herbs. You would have to blend this for like 60 seconds, 120 seconds, and your eggs would become so aerated that your frittatas would just overflow. And honestly, like having little bits of herbs in your filling is nice. It gives it color, it gives it some visual interest. I personally like it. Okay, we've got our greens divided amongst our little muffin cups. And what we're going to do is we're going to take half of the cheddar cheese and scatter it between these muffin tins. We only want to use half the cheese because we're going to mix the rest of the cheese into the eggs after we pour in the eggs. So we're going to put a little bit in each cup. And we don't have to use all the cheese if you don't want. Like if you prefer yours to have less cheese, that's totally fine. They'll still be delicious. I just like a lot of cheese. So we're going to add cheddar. And then we're also going to add some Parmesan to each one, because that's how I roll. I find that multiple cheeses, when mixed together, really like heighten the cheesy flavor. It gives like nuance of flavor that you won't find any other way. We're gonna sprinkle a little bit of Parmesan in each muffin well. And then we're going to wipe up the edges here, because anything that's sort of on the edges is just gonna melt to the pan and make it a pain in the butt to clean later, and that's no bueno. And if you notice any cheese, extra cheese, and like the excess wells, go ahead and pull that out. So I said that this recipe will make anywhere from 6 to 8 muffin cups, depending on like your particular muffin tin. So what I've done is I've made 6 because I think that's how many muffins the filling is going to accommodate. So now we're going to take this, our filling, and pour it into each little tin. And you don't want to overfill them, because then they can spill on the way to the oven. So we're just going to fill them like right below the edge. Here we go. In we go. If you overfill them, it becomes drama when you take them to the oven, because spilled egg on the floor is nobody's best friend. So now we've got our filling in here, we've got our cheese, and we've got our greens, and we need to quickly mix them inside of the little wells. So I've got my fork. What we're gonna do is very gently, because these are full enough that if you over agitate them, they will spill all over the place. So we're just going to gently put the fork in the eggs and kind of mix together. So you see what you're doing is kind of pulling up the greens that are on the bottom of the well and mixing up the cheese a little bit. And then we're going to add a little bit more cheese, because cheese, why not? Life's too short for not enough cheese. In we go. We don't want to use too much cheese because then they'll just overflow, but this will actually give them a nice crispy topping. Let's see, here we go. Give them another little noodle with the fork. You can see this guy's a little overfilled. Like this is what you want to avoid, because we don't want them to overflow when we put them in the oven. Alrighty, we're good. Now we're going to put these in the oven. I'm going to move this out of the way. Open up the oven. Ooh, that's hot. And in they go. Doink. So these are going to cook anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the size of your muffin tins and depending on your oven. What we're going to do is halfway through, we're going to turn them around. So we're going to set a timer for like 12 minutes, and at the 12-minute mark, we're going to turn them around. Our mini frittatas are done, and they look amazing. I have to show you how they look. I'm going to pull them out of the oven. Come check it out. Oof, look at that. See how much they balloon up? That's because they've ballooned up so much because of all the air that is inside of the eggs from us blending them. And you'll notice, even as they're sitting here, they're starting to deflate, and that's totally normal. What happens is once you pull them out of the oven, the pressure that's like letting the steam out and the heat that's like causing the water to evaporate, it's no longer there. So they start to deflate, and it's totally normal. But you can tell they're done because they've got like a perfectly like rounded little top. They've started to get a little golden brown, and they'll be a little bit more brown in different parts of your oven depending on where your oven is warmest. But also the most important thing is the internal temperature on these is about 185, 190 degrees, and that means they're perfect. So let's pop one out and eat one. Okay. Our mini frittatas are done, and they look great. These are so perfect, look at them. So when I pull them out of the oven, what happens is they rise up. That's just totally normal, right? Because even the little bit of blending we did actually, aerates them somewhat. So they do what we call souffleing, and they got really big, and as soon as you pull them out of the oven, within like 30 seconds, they go flat. And it's totally normal. What's happening is the steam has escaped. The steam is what was like making them big. As soon as you pull them out of the oven, the equilibrium changes and the steam goes away completely and they get flat. So if yours flatten, it's totally normal. And so this is what we've got. And see, they're perfect little handheld, like breakfast snacky things. And we're gonna see how they turned out. That was really good. That's tasty. You can see the greens in here. So there's a good amount of greens. The cheese is melted into it. It's got a good texture. They're not too rubbery. These cooked to an internal temperature of about 190 degrees by the time they were done. So eggs need to come to at least 160 degrees to coagulate. If you want them to be nice and solid like this, you want to take them a little bit higher to like 180. You don't really want to take them much above like 200. That's when they start to get hard and rubbery. And you can test the internal temperature with just like a little probe thermometer. And these are perfect. The texture is perfect. The flavor is perfect. The salt is perfect. These are freaking awesome.